Hi everyone. If there is a severe pain in the knee joint, so how this knee joint pain is related to kidney? Okay, so today we will discuss about the diuretics, the agents which will increase the urine volume. So first we will say like what is the basic use of increasing the urine volume. So normally when blood pressure is very high, in the sense volume of the blood is going to be very high. So here to control this blood pressure, we are considerably decreasing the volume. So most of the fluids will be taking off through this urine route. Okay, so this is how we can manage the blood pressure. Okay, diuretics is one of the major category of the drugs that will helpful in the management of the blood pressure, hypertension. Okay, so first we will say like what is kidney and its functional unit, what is parts and how it's going to be work. Okay, so let's see. So this is the basic diagram of the kidney. So kidney, if you see, there is a renal cortex is there, renal medulla is there. So adrenal gland is going to be located on the top of this kidney, and you can see this. So here the nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. So here for each kidney there is around 1.2 million nephrons are there. That's going to be useful for the filtration of your plasma, blood. Okay, so if I magnify this particular nephron, so it will be appear somewhat like this. So here we can see the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so where the filtration is going to be take place, and this region is called as proximal converter tubules, descending loop of Henle, ascending loop of Henle, distal converter tubules and collecting ducts. So these are the very important parts of this nephron. So here here we will see like various drugs are going to be work at the different regions of this nephron. So thereby it is going to be have the attained activity. So that is the reason why we should know the parts of all this. Okay, so if you see this, so because of the difference in the pressure, blood pressure, so here the filtration is going to be take place. Normally the blood pressure is 55 mmHg. Okay, so here normally the heart beats at 120 mmHg systolic and 80 mmHg diastolic. Okay, so still it reaches to the kidney, the pressure maintains is 55 mmHg. So that this pressure is essential for the filtering of the substances. When the blood volume is decreases, obviously the pressure 55 mmHg is going to be decreased. So that stimulates the secretion of the renin. So that renin later on is going to be converted into the vasoconstrictive agents. Okay, so here we will say like so this is the minimum pressure required for the filtration, and here 70 to 100 nanometers, the diameter of these arteries are arterioles are 70 to 100 nanometers. Here I mean to say, so all so most of the proteins or high molecular weight substances are not going to be filtered to this because of this particular size. Only the minerals, water and various small metabolites can be filtered through this. Okay, so here, so it mainly nephron conducts mainly three functions. One is filtration, reabsorption and active secretion. So filtration in the sense because of this Bowman's capsules, so here the plasma is going to be filtered. So normally it is around per minute is going to be filtered 120 ml of the plasma. So after reaching to this collecting ducts, so here the volume is 0.7 ml. So here I mean to say that 119.3 ml is reabsorbed, only 0.7 ml per minute is going to be remain in this duct. So normally this urine formation, depending on that we can categorize it oligouria and polyuria. Oligouria in the sense normally per day the volume of the urine is around 1500 ml per day. Okay, so if the volume is reduced to 500 ml per day, it is called as oliguria, less urine formation. Okay, if it is polyuria, if the volume is increased to 3500 ml per day, is said to be the polyuria. Okay, so when diabetes mellitus is one of the like symptom of one of the sign is the polyuria. Okay, so here, so these are the so it has a specific pumps. So for example here, so most this is proximal convoluted tubules where the most of the bicarbonates and sodium chloride is going to be absorbed in this particular area. It is called as proximal convoluted tubules. Okay, so it will very essential to maintain the buffer. Bicarbonates are going to be reabsorbed here. Sodium and essential component vitamins are going to be absorbed here. And moreover, so the substances which has the high molecular weight, such as penicillins, creatinine, are going to be actively secreted here. So in this proximal convoluted tubules. Okay, so this round is nothing but to show this is the region where that is going to be done. Physically there won't be any change. It is a normal pipe-like structure. Okay, after reaching this, so this is descending loop of Henle, where most of the water is going to be absorbed here in this descending loop of Henle. So next, ascending loop of Henle. So in this particular region, so there is a active absorption of sodium, chlorine and potassium at this particular point. So most of the salts are going to be absorbed by this. So 25% of the salts are going to be absorbed in this particular region. So next, in this particular portion is called as distal convoluted tubules. So most of the sodium chloride, 5 to 10% of the sodium chloride is going to absorb in this particular area. Next, these are called as collecting tubules, collecting ducts. So here also there will be exchange of these ions and sodium is going to be absorbed here. So depending on our requirement, we have to use specific drug that act on specific parts. Okay, if you want some moderate or less diuretic activity, normally we will go for the blocking of these sites where it results for 5 to 10% of inhibition. Okay, where if you need higher, so normally we will go for this loop diuretics. Loop diuretics, moderate we will go for this proximal convoluted tubules and collecting ducts. Okay, so normally we will select the type of drug depending on our requirement, whether we require the high or moderate or low diuretic activity. Okay, so next we will see so in this proximal convoluted tubules, so normally the hydrogen and bicarbonate forms this carbonic acid. This carbonic acid in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, so it will convert into the hydrogen plus HCO3. This carbonic acid is essential for the maintaining of the buffers in plasma. So this H plus ion is going to be pumped into this particular lumen, so where is going to be exchanged with the sodium. So most of the sodium is going to be exchanged by this methodology. Next, tubular secretion. So here tubular secretion is going to be done. So example, penicillin and creatine are going to be work. Normally the xanthin, the tea, coffee, so normally they will increase the renal blood flow, so thereby increase the urine volume. Okay, so here we will see what are the drugs which will affect on the diuretic activity. Okay, classification first we will go for the weak diuretics. The agents which will has the less diuretic activity are called as weak diuretics. Example, osmotic diuretics, example mannitol, xanthin derivatives, aminophylline and carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, acetazolamide. So we will say how these drugs are going to be work. Osmotic diuretics, for example. So if this is the urine, this is the lumen, and say for example this is the blood which is separated from by epithelium cell. The layer of the cell is going to be separated between this lumen and the blood. Okay, so normally if the osmotic pressure substances are there, say for example urea or mannitol is there in this, so this will not allow the passing of this water to the blood. So here because of the osmotic concentration, so it will try to pull the water from the blood vessels and it will increase the urine concentration. So that is how these drugs are going to be are called as osmotic diuretics. Next we will go for the xanthine derivatives. So, as we discussed, so these tea and coffee that will dilate your blood vessel. So, resulting of the renal blood flow is going to be increased. When the renal blood flow is increased, obviously the filtration rate is going to be increased. So, in that way is going to be utilized for the diuretic activity. Example, aminophylline. Next, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So, example acetazolamide. So, here normally we will inhibit this carbonic, so which will form this H plus. When H plus is there, then only sodium is going to be exchanged. Okay. So, when carbonic anhydrase is inhibited, this acetazolamide, so H plus will not form. So, because of the H plus unavailability of the H plus, there don't be any exchange between this in the proximal converter tubules. In that way, it is going to be inhibited the reuptake of the sodium. So, here normally the water follows the sodium concentration. When sodium is there, the water is going to be flushed towards that. Okay. So, here what we are doing is we are not allowing the sodium. So, resulting of the higher concentration of the sodium is going to be present in lumen. So, obviously the higher fluids are going to be there. So, that is nothing but the diuretic activity. Next class of the drugs we are called as moderate diuretics. So, these are the drugs, example osmotic diuretics, example isosorbates. So, this is the same mechanism. So, because of the osmotic pressure, it will not allow the fluids to enter to this. So, resulting of the high volume is going to be present in this. Thiazides, example chlorothiazides. So, these are the agents which will basically work on this distal converter tubules, which will inhibit this reabsorption of sodium and chloride in this particular region, which results from 5 to 10%. Okay. So, that is why we will call it as a moderate diuretics. Okay. So, it will inhibit only certain concentration of the reuptake of the sodium and chloride. So, everything will be normal, only it will affect only 5 to 10%. So, that is the reason why we will call it as moderate. Example thiazides, chlorothiazide is the example. Next, high ceiling diuretics. These are the agents which will effectively work. So, most of the drugs are going to be work on this particular ascending loop of Hill. So, these are going to be block the reuptake of sodium, chlorine and potassium. So, resulting of the higher concentration of the salts are present in this lumen, so which follows the water. So, thereby it will act. Example furosemide, bumetamide, ethacrynic acid. Next, potassium sparing diuretics. So, potassium sparing diuretic, example spironolactone. So, as we discussed that adrenal gland is there. Okay. So, adrenal gland is going to be secrete the aldosterone, the essential hormone aldosterone. This aldosterone is going to be bind intracellular receptor and is it translocate into the nucleus. From after translocation, it will synthesize certain proteins which will helpful for the preparation of sodium potassium pump. So, when sodium potassium pump is there, then only there is a active exchange of the sodium and potassium is going to be take place. So, here the sodium is going to be taken and potassium is going to be taken out. So, in this we will call it as potassium sparing diuretics, because it will not allow the potassium to pass to the lumen. So, it will inhibit the sodium potassium pump because of this transcription inhibition. So, thereby there will not be any pumps, so which will absorb this sodium. So, obviously there will be higher concentration of the fluids are going to be there. So, that is called as spironolactone. Next, amloride. So this is also work on this distal converter tubules and collecting ducts. So, this is how we can increase the urine volume, thereby we can treat effectively hypertension. Okay. Hope this video is useful. Thank you.